Alright, this video is of the WAGO 750-841 Quick Start Guide, and in this video we're going to be programming the equivalent program in function block diagram and also in structured text of our ladder diagram that we covered in the first series of videos. I'm now going to show you how to recreate this program in two different languages, in structured text and in function block diagram. In order to do this, we're going to create a new POU. If you right click in this white area under the POU tab, we want to add an object, and we want to make sure that it's structured text. We're going to call this PLC underscore PRG underscore ST. Click OK. You can see there are no variables declared, so I'm going to actually go back to our PLC PRG ladder diagram, and I'm going to copy those variables that we've already declared, and I'm going to paste them into our new POU. This section below here is where we're going to type in our structured text. Remember, the first line is the input 1, input 2, and output 1. Structured text is a little different. We're actually going to start from the output 1 and make it true or not true based on our inputs 1 and 2. In order to do that, just go to line 1. We're going to utilize the input assistant. Select output 1, space, colon equals. This is basically to assign a value to output 1 based on what is on to the right of this expression here. Again, the input assistant, input 1, followed by a semicolon. So the way to read this essentially is that output 1 will be true when input 1 is true and input 2 is not true. Logically is the same as this ladder diagram representation. Alright, this next section here, we're going to do the on delay timer. Go to the input assistant. We'll go to local variables and we want to select our timer. And you can tell the software automatically populated the inputs and the outputs that it's looking for. The inputs are designated with the colon equals, and the outputs are equal to an equal sign and a greater than sign. And just as you had here on the left hand side your inputs and on the right hand side your outputs, that's how you can determine what the program is looking for. So I'm just going to position the blinking cursor to the right of the in assignment. I'm going to go back to the input assistant. I'm going to tie that to a global variable input 1. And again, I'm going to position the cursor to the right of the PT declaration. And if you recall, this is the same notation for a 2-second constant. And the Q, recall, looking back here, the Q is tied to T1 done, and the elapsed time is tied to T1 underscore elapsed time. So I'm just going to populate those fields using the input assistant again. The local variables. You can also type these in. You don't have to use the input assistant if you don't want to. It's just up to you whether you prefer to use that. So that completed line 2. Line 3 is our increment function block. There's our function. If you recall, C1 is tied to T1 underscore done. Reset we're going to leave blank. And our PV was at 3. Our Q was tied to C1 underscore done. And our count value is tied to CV underscore count value. And for our final line, I'm actually just going to cut and paste first line because the last line is very similar to the first line. Just to remind what this line looks like. Basically, we want to tie the C1 done in parallel with the input 1 and input 2. And to do that, we're just going to put parentheses around this expression, which will force it to be evaluated as one expression. And we're going to OR that with C1 done. So this is how you would express in structured text what we've done here in line 4 on the ladder diagram. One other thing you can do with the structured text is you can add comments. And you can do that by using a parentheses followed by a asterisk, and then you close the comment with the same parentheses and an asterisk. And this allows you to make it easier for other people that might be looking at your code to understand what you're trying to do with your code, and really helps on large programs for troubleshooting.